What up, Sauce Gang, and welcome back to the channel. Hot Sauce Beats here with another dope reaction. Well, the time has finally arrived that we're gonna be reacting to Ranboo's Dream SMP lore for the very first time. And for this video, you guys have requested Animagician's video called Ranboo's entire story on the Dream SMP, saying this is basically the best Ranboo lore breakdown, and this is what I need to react to. The people have spoken, and I have listened, and here it is. So I'm pretty stoked for this, and I hope you enjoy the reaction. But before we jump into the video, please, fam, help support the channel by smashing that subscribe and like button. It's absolutely free and it greatly helps out the channel. But enough talking, let's get to reacting and roll that bomb-ass intro!
Hot Sauce Beats is finally here. Hot Sauce Beats is finally here. Eat, sleep, make beats. Eat, sleep, make beats.
Hot Sauce Beats! Woo-hoo! We win these! Let's jump into it, chat. Let's go.
Left in to make it easier for you guys to figure out what's going on with this extremely complex character. If you want more of these videos, feel free to subscribe and I will deliver, because everyone who quite literally likes my videos is subscribed, and I'd appreciate it if you were. Ranboo joined the Dream SMP pretty recently, but he's quickly become the fan favorite of the server. And before we dive into the actual story, we have to highlight a few character traits and quirks that he has, so that the story itself makes more sense. If you want to skip straight to the story though, go to this timestamp. Ranboo canonically has memory issues, both long and short term, which means he finds it hard to recollect even who his friends are, who's good and who's bad, and what he himself has done. To try and counteract this though, he made what he calls memory books. These are books in which he documents all of his interactions, thoughts and actions, and he started off with one fake one and one real one. The fake book was to act as a decoy if anyone asked to see his book, and was called Memory Book, whereas the real book was named Do Not Read and has his true intentions, thoughts, actions and motivations. These were his two main books for a long time, but he later on got a third and an alleged fourth book under certain circumstances, which we'll get to later. Ranboo is also part Enderman. It's thought widely that he's half Enderman and half Ghast, but Ranboo said in the past that this isn't true, and that even he doesn't know what the other half of his character is.
Oh, see, chat, that I didn't know. I knew he was half Enderman, like 100% confirmed, but yeah, I thought he was, the other half was Ghast, so I didn't know that it's actually not confirmed what the second half is, and that even Ranboo doesn't know. See, this is why I need to do videos like this, man, so I jump in and learn and like actually know what's going on with the certain character.
Enderman's side though gives him certain Enderman-like qualities and preferences. For example, it's been confirmed that Ranboo canonically hates water and he dislikes going in it without armor. He always tries to stay indoors or wear a helmet when it rains, and it's also known that his own tears hurt him when he cries. In addition to all of these things, Ranboo can pick up any block by punching it with his hand, a lot like Silk Touch, but with the added ability to pick up more blocks than normally possible, like mob spawners. He also dislikes eye contact and has been heard to make the Enderman noises when panicking. Ranboo, both canonically and IRL, joined the Dream SMP completely unprepared to do so. He wasn't planned to join and instead was whitelisted while he was streaming after being asked to join while he was streaming. The first major plot important thing that Ranboo did was to grief George Not Found's house with Tommy in it, a crime that would spark his first arc on the server. When it was found that George's house was more or less completely destroyed, there were calls for justice. A trial ensued and Ranboo was implicated in the crime by Tommy. When he was questioned, however, he refused to rat out Tommy, and even though it might have let him get away, he remained silent. On seeing this, Tommy sacrificed himself, taking all the blame for the grieving and clearing Ranboo's name, leaving him a free man. Indebted, Ranboo later defended Tommy in an argument where he was being called selfish, questioning whether a selfish person would give themselves up just to save someone else. Tommy in this arc was against L'Manberg. He was on the opposite side of the government, and Ranboo seeing Tommy being a good person, despite being on the quote-unquote bad side, probably helped him form the basis of his ideals.
See, chat, like none of so there really hasn't been much coverage on Ranboo lore, right? Like, he's just a big character that's in the Dream SMP, but no one really has or at least what I've seen, broken down his lore. So already this video is doing a great job, because most of the stuff he's saying is stuff I have no clue about, I haven't seen, nor have I heard about. And it hasn't really been covered on anything like Evan MC Gaming's videos or, you know, late August or anything like that. So This is really good that we're getting into
Those
this.
being that sides are an inherently flawed concept. Ranboo tried, and still does try, to stay loyal to people, not any single side, and this will come up again later, because as the story progresses, Ranboo's belief in this ideal only grows stronger. He stuck by this moral even immediately after forming it by writing Tommy letters, for example, but still remaining friendly to L'Manberg. Although these letters were intercepted by Dream, we're talking about Ranboo here, not Tommy, so what matters is that the letters were written. Ranboo did think about his friend Tommy as just that, a friend. Around this point, the Exile in It arc was still going on, and L'Manberg still wanted revenge on the man who had unleashed withers on their nation and toppled their government, no matter the cost. Ranboo was roped into this mess and became a very last-minute member of the Butcher Army, which was a group of people dedicated to hunting and killing Technoblade, or at least bringing him to justice. He was one of the least aggressive members of the Butcher Army, but was a part of it nonetheless, presumably because of his allegiance to Tubbo. However, just because L'Manberg and
Now, what's funny about this is obviously before Ranboo joins Technoblade, in the Syndicate. So it's really interesting to see these beginnings, and now knowing where it's at, because this is what happens right when you jump into something late. You get to see like the end result and not how the story got there.
Thereby Tubbo disliked Techno didn't mean that Ranboo disliked Techno, or harbored any bad feelings towards him. After all, Ranboo wasn't a part of L'Manberg when it was being destroyed by Techno and Wilbur, so he didn't really have a grudge against the then pacifist pig. He later gave Techno a lot of his items back, like his armor, and that was a move that most would view as treason, but Ranboo just saw as a decent thing to do for a person who needed help. Again, he held no grudges. Techno then forgave Ranboo, making both of their views of each other positive, making Ranboo much more open to helping Techno. This will come up again in a bit. After this major plotline, Ranboo's story falls into a bit of a lull. He was killed by a llama named Florencio, who spat him to death. Which is why he now hates llamas. Just another day on the Dream SMP.
I hate llamas.
Anyway, Ranboo was decorating for festival at L'Manberg, which most were invited to attend, including Dream, but excluding Tommy and Techno. While he was decorating for the celebrations, Ranboo found his second memory book, Do Not Read, missing, and immediately started panicking. He had documented his every move in that book, and he knew that if L'Manberg found out that he had outright given Techno his items back, that he would be seen as a traitor. Given the country's killing Tubbo history with executing traitors, this made Ranboo uneasy, and he spiraled and devolved more and more, looking for the book in every chest he could find, worsening with every failed search. Finally, however, he found the book in a double chest in his own house, and without thinking of the implications, took it back, relieved to have found it. As he started to go about the rest of his day, though, he realized something. He hadn't kept the book there. He hadn't placed his most prized possession in the chest. That wasn't him. That was someone else. Someone else who had gotten their hands on the book. Someone else who might know of his actions, who might out him as a traitor. These thoughts swirling in Ranboo's head, he made a panic room out of obsidian near what was left of L'Manberg. He filled it with comforting signs, and it seems that the obsidian itself comforted him. And my theory on this is that the Endermen hide near the obsidian pillars of the end to try and stay safe from the dragon, so naturally Ranboo feels safe around obsidian. The next day was the day of the festival, and since Ranboo held both Techno and Tommy as friends in his mind, he agreed to feed them intelligence and help them to kill Dream. He told the duo that Dream would attend the festival, and that he was apparently going to follow the age-old tradition of no armor in L'Manberg. That second part ended up being false, with Dream showing up in full netherite armor and starting to build obsidian walls around L'Manberg. Neither Techno nor Tommy blamed Ranboo for this wrong information, and instead Ranboo simply watched from the sidelines as Tubbo and Tommy fought, and then as Dream manipulated the situation. Dream said that the reason he was building the walls around L'Manberg was that Tommy had blown up the community house, one of the oldest and most important structures on the server, causing tensions to rise even further. As Dream targeted Tubbo, trying to make him even more insecure, he declared that Ranboo was a traitor and that he had been working against Tubbo this entire time. Given that the last thing he could remember himself doing was helping Tommy and Techno, Ranboo was at a loss for words and turned to his memory book to try and come up with a response to Dream. He opened the first page though, and found it blank, completely wiped clean, except for one smiley face. The next page was the same, and the next after that, and as Ranboo flipped
Dream has his
frantically through
book?
the book, looking for something, anything that he could remember to read, Dream laughed and handed Tabu the actual memory book, completely exposing Ranboo's supposed treachery.
What? Chat, I didn't know about this. What? Has this been on something and I just forgot it? Do I need a memory book? Wow. So why... Is it because Dream knew that Ranboo gave Technoblade back the armor? Is that why? Is that why Dream got the book? But how Dream even know about them? How does anyone know about the book? Did someone catch Ranboo writing in it? And he's like, yeah, I'm writing down my memories so I don't forget, see? So I don't forget, see?
In the heat of the moment, the betrayal was brushed off for more pressing matters, but later Ranboo got into an argument with some of the other server members over his concept of morality and allegiance, leading to puns getting annoyed at him and calling him selfish and indecisive, saying that he was helping no one by not picking sides in conflicts and only making things worse. This argument got worse and worse, and eventually Ranboo left, going to his panic room to try and calm down and cool off. As he was reading the signs and slowly coming back to normal, however, Ranboo heard a voice in his head. It sounded like Dream's voice, and it told him that he had blown up the community house, that he really had betrayed his friends, and that in his effort to stay loyal to his people, he had betrayed them all. Ranboo tried to argue against the voice, saying that he hadn't done any such thing, that he would documented such an action in his memory books, but the voice simply made him lose faith in his books. Ranboo's books, his anchors, the things he trusted the most and used as his rock, could no longer be fully trusted in his eyes, and this loss started to make him spiral downwards, until he eventually asked the voice in desperation what he could rely on, if not the books. The voice only replied, "Definitely not yourself. I'm not even real," before disappearing, making Ranboo spiral even further, making him think he was crazy, and making him incredibly insecure. The day after these events was
Holy
Doomsday,
shit, Chad.
the day on which Techno and Dream had promised to completely destroy L'Manberg. Ranboo vowed to fight alongside the L'Manbergians against the Techno-Dream alliance, and could only stand and watch in horror as the entirety of L'Manberg was destroyed by withers and TNT rain. He also saw Nikki, a person he had trusted and looked up to, burning down the L'Man tree, and this only furthered his hatred for Sides, and convinced him that even the best people would and could be corrupted by the flawed logic of division during conflict. Ranboo's house was also destroyed during the Doomsday TNT shower, and he found himself homeless after the dust had settled. Phil contacted Ranboo after this, knowing that he was trustworthy, and offered him a place to stay. Ranboo, trusting both Phil and Techno despite their differences in previous conflicts, agreed to the offer and hence joined the Arctic Anarchist Commune, slowly becoming closer and closer to Techno and Phil every day. After having settled into his house with the Commune, Ranboo went back to L'Manberg's crater to try and retrieve his items. He went to his panic room, which was still standing, being made out of obsidian, and started to try and pack up when he started to spiral again, eventually hearing the voice in his head again. Ranboo asked the voice why it was back, to which the voice replied that it had always been a part of him, and that Ranboo only listened to it consciously in the panic room. This shook Ranboo, but the voice continued, accusing him of blowing up the community house once more, and even of helping Dream gather the TNT that was later used to blow up L'Manberg. Ranboo denied this again, saying that his memory book showed no record of any such thing, and that it couldn't have been him. But then he found a chest in the walls of the panic room with 2 TNT blocks left in it, causing him to stress out so much that he was making Enderman noises just to comfort himself. A few days later, and still shaken to his core, Ranboo went back to confront the voice in the panic room. On this visit, it explained that Ranboo blacks out regularly and follows the orders of the voice, doing whatever it asked. The voice claimed that it was during these blackouts that Ranboo had blown up the community house and helped Dream gather TNT, and even the Dream trusted Ranboo while he was blacked out and following orders, otherwise known as enderwalking. Unsurprisingly, Ranboo couldn't remember anything
that's
from
what
these enderwalks and refused
enderwalking
to
is.
believe what the voice was telling him. The voice insisted that it wasn't lying though, and that Dream even trusted enderwalking Ranboo enough to give him one of the discs which were arguably the most precious items on the server. In disbelief, but now too curious to stop thinking, Ranboo went back to his house, and there, buried amongst his other possessions, he found a disc which was, well, at the very least, an exact copy of the real deal. The shock of this discovery caused Ranboo to black out. He later told Techno and Phil about his enderwalking and the fact that he possessed the disc, expecting to be shunned for both of these things. To his surprise, however, the pair didn't seem to care, which gave him some reassurance. The next we heard of Ranboo, he was one of the reinforcements that came with puns as Tommy and Tubbo finally confronted and defeated Dream, trapping him in prison and ridding the server of its primary antagonist. Ranboo said he knew he was right about Dream the entire time, that only with everyone working together with no sides, only then could he be stopped. While he was thinking about Dream, however, he wondered whether he actually did blow up the community house or whether that was a lie fabricated by the voice. He had never spoken to Dream one-on-one in person before, and he planned to go to the prison and ask Dream for clarity, just to get some answers, no matter whether they eased his conscience or not. A little while after this, Ranboo randomly started hearing the disc mellow high, and he went back to the panic room to try and get it to stop. It worked at first, but then the disc started playing again, and this time it refused to stop. He went back to the panic room to try and stop it again, but it didn't work, and Ranboo ended up devolving into shouting at the voice, demanding answers, finally asserting himself, and eventually managing to end the incessant and intolerable music with a yell. The strangest thing happened after this yell. Ranboo was suddenly, quote-unquote, free, able to edit the first page of his memory book, sure that he hadn't done what the voices told him he had, and ready to visit Dream, not to ask for clarity, but instead to tell him just how much he had hurt people. This seemed like victory. It seemed like Ranboo had finally confronted and defeated his inner demons, and that he would no longer be tormented by the nagging feeling that he betrayed his friends constantly, no longer tormented by the wretched voice of Dream. This story isn't over yet, though. After quote-unquote freeing himself, Ranboo started to show a lot more of his Enderman traits, like the ability to pick up any block, including spawners with his bare hands, and increased...
When essentially he made that disc stop, right, and he broke the music player, do you think that was him, like, essentially breaking through and, I don't want to say rediscovering himself, but essentially he has control over himself now and can essentially choose his own fate? 'Cause I kind of feel like before that he was almost never in control of like what happened or didn't, right? Because he couldn't remember stuff. He blacked out recently, the voices. So I wonder if that was kind of like a defining moment that really had him kind of break through and start controlling his own destiny.
Dislike for eye contact and so on. There was a downside, however. He started to enderwalk a lot more. During these enderwalks, he would act normally, but would speak, write, and talk in enderspeak, the language of endermen. At one point during these enderwalks, Ranboo visited Dream in prison, having a nightmare consciously, simultaneously, in which he did the same. In said dream, or should I say in said nightmare in which he visited the prison, Ranboo met Dream. The situation slowly got worse and worse for Ranboo and his mental health, as Dream tried to convince Ranboo that he had helped him, even starting to refer to himself in the third person. All while Ranboo denied it, but the nightmare slowly started to unravel. The memory book that Ranboo had taken in with him had his first page replaced with a smiley, and Dream showed Ranboo that he had made loads of copies of his Do Not Read memory book, the very book that had outed him as a traitor.
Oh shit.
Dream then revealed that he wasn't even the real Dream and was actually the panic room voice, disappearing right in front of his very eyes. Ranboo was still not free, and the voice was not gone. It was still a part of him, and it claimed it knew what Ranboo thought, how Ranboo felt, and how Ranboo acted much better than even he did, and that's why it referred to Dream in the third person. Because the panic room voice isn't Dream, despite what it sounds like. It's Ranboo. The deepest, darkest parts of him, no doubt, but it's still the same person. The dream ended with Ranboo falling to his death as the prison crumbled around him, obsidian falling in layers like sand, Ranboo spiraling faster and faster even while on the death screen. He didn't die, of course, since it was a dream, but he woke up with full memory of what he had just experienced and with full awareness that he wasn't free from the voice. Then, to try and confirm that the visit hadn't happened and that what he had seen was just that, a dream, and not him coping with reality by calling it a dream, Ranboo wanted to visit the prison. All was going well until Ranboo claimed that he hadn't visited the prison before. Since he had, while enderwalking, while having that very same nightmare, Sam, the prison guard, didn't let him in, saying that he was lying. Ranboo, on seeing his name signed in Enderspeak on Sam's forums, realized what must have happened and asked Sam to never let him into the prison again in case enderwalking Ranboo somehow conspired to free Dream, undoing all of the hard work of every server member up until that point. He also remembered that in his dream Sam had let him take a memory book with him into the prison and concluded that he must have taken a book while enderwalking as well. After looking through his existing books, Ranboo realized that he must have a separate book for when he blacks out, and enderwalking Ranboo must have thought similarly to his conscious counterpart, and kept a real book to document his actions, and left the do not read book as a decoy. Ranboo's plan as of now is to find this book, clear his mind, conscience, and questions, and then burn it, to remove any possible evidence of him helping Dream. He plans to go to sleep holding an empty map so he can track it on waking up and see where he goes while enderwalking, ostensibly to find the book in this area. He also decided that he wanted to be able to confide in somebody about the enderwalking to help clear his conscience, as I said earlier. He doesn't know exactly who to tell though, because he'd have to trust the person enough to actually tell them. He also wants the person to have their own secrets, to make them morally grey, and for them to be sort of detached from the situation, to help them keep the enderwalking secret. While Techno and Phil seem like obvious choices here, he doesn't think they'd care about his problems enough to help him. He's considered that he might not be able to get his memory book back alone and will need a second pair of hands, and he's willing to make compromises. He really wants that book. Before we end off, however, I'll leave you with one last interesting thing. In one of his latest streams, Ranboo had a very specific set of items in his inventory. And when you read those out, that's right, read the first letter of each item in his inventory, they spelled out he is in control.
I heard about this.
And on that spooky note, the video is done. Hope you enjoyed.
Chat,
In this-
what the hell? What? What? Chat, I don't even know what the hell's even going on with that. Like, so by saying he is in control, he's clearly talking about the voice, right? Like he, not Ranboo, he, but the voice is in control. And so one of the comments someone wrote in here was the book has yet to be found, and that essentially that part of lore has yet to lead anywhere. Because where we're at now, right, is Ranboo is, yes, definitely living up there where Techno, Phil's are. Ranboo's part of the Syndicate. Ranboo is married with Tubbo. Ranboo is in Wilburger. Wilbur had Ranboo lay TNT underneath Las Nevadas. Ranboo's in a lot of lore, fam. Excuse me. So this was really interesting to jump into and kind of start understanding some of the foundation behind it. But no, I gotta say, Anna Magician did an amazing job telling the story. This was an amazing video, well put together. Definitely helped me understand a little better where Ranboo's coming from. But chat, I had an amazing time doing this, and I hope you enjoyed the reaction. And if you did, please help support the channel by smashing that subscribe and like button. It's absolutely free and it greatly helps out the channel. We are so close, or we're getting closer to 50K. So be a part of history in the making and join the Sauce Gang. Enjoy your upcoming weekend, and remember, it's eat, sleep, and make beats. And as usual, be kind to one another, and that's all I got. Boom! I'm out! Got my love for Sauce Gang. Peace. I love you guys. Have a great day.